Ladies and gentlemen of the jury of tone, we are here.
Nice.
We are here on our journey, making our way a little closer to Tone Town day by day. I have a good feeling today that we're gonna really get over some major hurdles in tone, because today we're gonna be talking about a pedal. I don't even know that we've ever talked about this pedal, this genre of pedals on the podcast before. Correct me if I'm wrong. But today
and it was my first pedal I ever bought, I have to say.
And I would say that would be true of many of us, because there is such a distinctive sound that is characteristic of this particular device. If you haven't already guessed what it is the wah-wah. Now, I'm holding, I know some people can see it, I'm just going to get it where it's not, it has any sort of glare. I'm holding the Maxon Blubber Wah, which we're going to talk about more. A lot of people don't know about this. I was introduced to this by the great, your countryman, in fact, Grant Philip Sayus. We're going to talk about some wahs today, and we're also going to be referencing an article, which you'll be able to see on screen with us if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on wherever you find your podcast. We'll do our best to describe what it is that we're seeing. But there's been an article written about the best wah pedals in 2024. Now, going along with your feedback, when we've done these sorts of articles and we've dissected them, some people have complained that we do a lot of, let's say, constructive criticism of the article writers, but we don't do a lot of naming of what we would actually be putting on our own list. So we will make sure that we leave time and space to describe what we think are our preferred wah pedals that exist out there. And there'll be a mixture, at least from where I'm coming from, of new products that you could go and get off the shelf right at this moment, and also maybe some secondhand options that maybe aren't made anymore but are still affordable. And you're going to get to hear about some sleeper wahs too, just like the Blubber Wah that I spoke about earlier, which is a fantastic wah that not a lot of people know about. And if you want that vintage wah sound and you want that short throw of an old wah, it's a really great one. And the casting on it, I'm just going to say this real quick, I know we're not there yet, but the casting on this is really lightweight comparatively to a modern day wah. So I would say where a regular wah is certainly over 2 pounds, this is probably in the, just over 1 pound range, even though it's a full size, normal sort of wah enclosure. So just food for thought there when you're considering every pound can matter when you're dealing with the fly rig. So let's get into their list very quickly, if you don't mind. Maybe before we start though, let's just say where we are with wahs. Where do you sit on the spectrum of pedals? Where does wah fit in for you? What are your experiences, good or bad? Grant, what do you have to say for yourself in regards to wahs?
Not a whole lot. I'm going to start there and hopefully improve as the episode goes on. Wah was, like I mentioned, wah was the first effect I bought. It was I don't even know the model number. I got it at Long & McQuaid up here in Canada. And it was a standard black, as simple, bare bones as you could get, Crybaby.
Crybaby, yep.
And that was it. Input, output, power jack. No extra knobs, dials, nothing. And when I got it, I literally bought it because the guy at the store said, if you're playing electric guitar, this is an effect you need. So I bought it. I had no sweet clue how to use that thing. Not a clue. So I would turn it on. I would literally rock it back and forth a little bit. I'd turn it off again, and then I'd just play guitar. That was it. And so that's where I'm coming from on my initial first impressions of wah. Since then, though, I would say I would put myself in the category of wah curious. I know it is a very relevant effect to the history of guitar, and I need advice and I need some encouragement on how I can use it properly in my rig. It doesn't mean I am not without opinions on it, which we'll get to later, but I would say, as far as when I'm building a pedal board for myself, it doesn't get much further down the list as of right now than wah. It's a very bottom of the barrel. I just don't put it on my board.
Brian?
I guess you could say, okay, besides testing wahs on builds, I have never had a wah on my personal board ever. I don't think I've ever even thought about it. So I guess you could call me a wah virgin of of that.
Nice.
Since in a way, because I don't think I've ever I've had expression pedals on my board, but it's locked like to like the Vertex like for your boost and to the quad cortex. But yeah, no wahs. I've never even thought about a wah.
Wow.
Well,
we're going to have a GoFundMe that's going to be linked in the show notes and in the description, which is let's break Brian's wah virginity. And we can maybe we can get him a crybaby or some of the other options that we might talk about today. So anyway, it'll be there for those that want to contribute, and maybe. Perfect. Brian will finally see Tone Jesus in a wah. Yep. Now, I'll say that I also, I don't know if it was the first effect I bought, but it was definitely one of the earliest effects that I bought, because I remember, being into Slash and like wanting to get like the, Sweet Child of Mine, like kind of like the like outro solo, type thing that he had going on. And so I remember like wanting to have a crybaby, but I feel like the first crybaby I got was like the 535Q or something like that, but it was chrome, because I feel like there was some sort of like discount at the Guitar Center that was nearest me on the chrome one.
Is this polished chrome?
Yeah, it's like super polished chrome.
Shiny.
Yeah. And so it wasn't. It didn't. I think I could have done better, but I think as an impressionable young guitar player, when the guy at Guitar Center says this is the one, you don't really have anything else. I couldn't like say to my dad like, well, what do you think, Dad? Like he didn't know anything about guitar pedals. So anyway,
and you aren't really thinking about at that age. You aren't thinking about like, I wonder what his commissions are when he sells me this pedal that no one else wants. Like what incentives does he get when he sells this to me?
Right.
Yeah.
Every pedal I went in wanting, they were like, man, you really need this pedal. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I didn't know.
Sounds like
so
you,
much
bro.
Stock.
Why is it so
dusty?
For some reason I had 9 tuners on one board. I don't know. They said I needed it.
Yeah. One for the input, one for the output.
Right. Well, let's get into what the picks are here. So on the article today, and this is written by Alex Linham,
Thanks,
Best
Alex.
Wahs of 2024.
Alex.
First choice, number 1, the Jim Dunlop Crybaby Mini 535Q. Now, I think that this is, I mentioned, I think I said 535Q. I had the full-size chrome one. Now, here's a question that I have for everybody. This is gonna this is gonna break. What is it? The third wall, the fourth wall, whatever wall it is. We're gonna break
Fourth
it.
Wall.
Break it.
Do people like I've put these on pedal boards before. I'm sure we all have. There's obviously this thing where we want to consolidate big pedals and make them more pedal board friendly. But there's always a limitation to like how small you can realistically make a pedal and where it's like still functional as the pedal.
Yeah.
These to me look like play school toys when I see them on pedal boards.
Yeah.
I also feel like we still have a finite size of foot. Like what's the average shoe size? Like a 9 or a 10 for a man, and I don't know, like a 6 or 7 for a woman. I don't know. These are like, I wear a 12 US size. Like these to me just seem like you can't really manipulate them properly in this form factor. Now I understand it fits on pedal boards, and there's going to be, and come at me in the comments on this one. But I don't get it. Like
yeah.
if it, I just keep the ball off the board. Like they draw so little current You know, like if you can't fit it, just leave it to the side. You use on battery; it'll last a long time. Where are you guys sitting on the political discussion of mini wah pedals?
Firstly, little intimidated by your shoe size, being an 11 and a half over here.
But let's just say this: Grant is like 6 inches taller than me. Is how tall are you, Grant?
I have smaller feet.
And he has smaller feet. So you're saying things aren't proportional. Aha!
Maybe. We're breaking all sorts of walls today. Yeah, no, I'm 6'3". I think I'm about 11 and a half.
Okay, so
no
not as tall.
As they say. But no, I think I think we talked about this briefly in the last episode. I brought up the DVP4 expression volume thing. It was like, yeah, it fits on a board, but man, they're frustrating to use, and it takes the joy out of using them. And I was thinking, as you're saying that, Mason, 100%, just run it off the side of your board, chuck it in your backpack, get a full size wah. Don't have that awkward, twisting your ankle. Am I actually moving it back and forth feeling while you're trying to use these little tiny wah pedals?
Yeah.
I would give this as a gift to my 5-year-old son. And he'd probably grow out of it after 2 years.
Right.
You know? I don't think it's going to happen. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I've put this on a couple boards, and the thing is this, is like, if you, depending on where you put it, if it's not on the end, say some people, they put it in between two pedals, sometimes stepping on that, you're going to hit knobs on either side, because it's so small. Like I have a 6-year-old, and I think it's small for my 6-year-old. So, I mean, great if he wants to wash, sure. But what I'm saying is like for the foot size, like if you're wearing boots, I would never encourage Crocs or flip-flops.
That's true, actually. I've done this.
Yeah.
I used to have the DVP4, and I would wear boots with a little bit of a heel on it. Mm-hmm. But it's so small that the heel kind of has to almost go behind the front lip of the treadle.
Yeah.
And it was, that was so frustrating to use. So whenever I played guitar, I had to purposefully not wear my boots. Horrible for the boots and boards hashtag. My engagement there went downhill. Like, it affected a lot of areas of my life. And,
they kicked Grant out of the group on Facebook.
They were like,
if you don't post, you can't stay. Yeah, and so I had to decide boots and boards or DVP4, and ultimately I chose correctly. I'll leave that as it is.
Yeah. It's like, and especially like the width, like of the boot and stuff. Sometimes it's so wide, so you have to allow for clearance. Because you know how carried away people can get on like Pedal Playground or Pedal Train sites or any of these sites that you can do like a digital mock-up, is that they squeeze everything together. They like jack to jack. And I'm like, I'm glad that someone invented...
You're using those wireless jacks.
Wireless patch cables
Bluetooth,
and all that.
Yep, Bluetooth. Yep. Yeah, they love it, yeah.
Everything's powered by magnetics. No, but like that kind of stuff. Like, and I have people like, oh man, that sucks. I didn't think about that. And it's like, yeah, that's... it's not even tall enough, so it's still a great wah. I think it's a really cool little mini wah for someone that doesn't use one, but it definitely is very, like, you just have to be careful about where you place it.
Yeah.
And Mason also made a great point. Just keep it off the board. There's been plenty of times that, like, I go over to Andy Timmons' house and we'll do some like tweaks and stuff, and his wah's off on the side of the board. He just carries it in his backpack.
Because he's a normal person. He's a normal person, a well-adjusted normal person. It's not getting into these miniature perversions. They're not doing foot binding, to make their pedal board work.
That would be a funny upsell. You can sell this mini wah with a foot binding kit that goes with it.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've seen it where it's like a plate that you can attach to the side. It's like, I'm like, no, at that point, just leave it off. And he uses that. He might have something else now, but for the first couple of years I was at the Guitar Sanctuary, he had the purple Buddha wah.
That is. I'm going to show you right now. Check this thing out.
That's probably my favorite one.
It's fortuitous that you say this, because look what I'm holding.
Look at that.
Look at this. People that know, they know. The old Buddha wah. This thing is insanely good. Now, these were manufactured. A lot of people don't know this. These were manufactured by Dunlop, but on behalf of Buddha. Because they just, they have the wah infrastructure already set up. I think that's pretty well established at this point. But these are amazing wahs. If you can find a Buddha, it's called the boudoir. If you can find one of these are used by a lot of great players, including session guys like Michael Thompson, Paul Jackson Jr., Andy Timmons among them. These are fantastic wahs. And I feel like you can get them for less than $200.
That's nice.
On Reverb, maybe even less than that. But yeah, great choice.
I like the condition. The condition of yours is great because his did not have a bottom on it or feet.
Oh, well, that's easy. That's easy to fix.
That was, and it's always one of those, like, you can get the plexiglass bottoms, but it's a great, I would say of all the walls I've actually tested on boards, that's probably one of my favorite ones
and keeping it off the board, I think you can keep it more ergonomic, because you see that there's like some people on pedal boards, just because of how things have to fit, they have to put it, like kind of straight in line. But a lot of guys that really want to kind of be a more ergonomic feel, I'll tilt it the right way for the camera. Yep, they'll kind of tilt it off to the side. Yep. And so you can do that when you have it sitting off the board. You can tilt it so that like the pitch of your foot feels more natural. Like you're not at risk of an ACL tear because of the way that you're trying to orient your foot in relationship to the wall. So, I don't have any objection to the 535Q. It's a very versatile wah. You have a Q control, and I think there's like a boost or like a volume or something on it. These are Dunlop still makes fantastic wah pedals. There's nothing wrong with them at all. My only objection is just that there is this psychology of small pedals that really just shouldn't be small.
Yeah.
They should be a regular size pedal. Let's see what else they have here. Number 2 is a Vox V847A original. Now, I don't know which one of these this is, the V840. I don't know if one of you guys can look it up. Which is this the Clyde McCoy, or is this like their
let me look.
They're like standard V847A. I know they also have like a hand-wired Vox that's out there.
They mention the Clyde McCoy in this
article. But I don't know if that's what it is. I think the V846 is the stand. I guess like kind of like the classic one that if you had a vintage one, it'd be worth a lot of money.
This just says on Sweetwater the 1960s style wah.
Okay,
classic.
So it's not the hand-wired one then.
No, I don't think so. Okay, I can't even see inside.
Well, I still think that these are actually pretty good for like, again, a production line one, even if it's not the one I'm thinking. If it is the McCoy one, that's nice. They also have a hand-wired one that's pretty nice. I know that the guys, and we'll talk about them a little later, who are like real wah guys that are like just making vintage style wahs, still have some objections to this. But I think reasonably, like the Vox wah sound, classic sound, I think it's... I don't have any objections to this. What's the price point on that on Sweetwater?
It is
the V847A.
$149.99.
$149.99 in today's,
and you can
free shipping in stock.
Just letting you guys know, from Tone Brothers Music in Montreal, Canada, you can buy an all original 1967 Clyde McCoy signature wah, $19.95 US, as in $1,995.
That's a deal.
That's a pricey wah. I don't think I've ever seen a wah go up that high before. Not that I'm searching wahs, as you guys know, but
pocket change.
The originals are pricey.
They'll get some. They'll get some dough. This says best budget. I don't know. I mean,
That's not a bad price.
$149 though is the budget price. But for the V847A is $150. That just seems higher than what they normally do for their budget pick.
I mean, maybe they're saying maybe because it's I don't know. I mean, I've never. The next one would be more budget, I think, for me
okay. So number 3 is the Boss PW3.
It's
now,
just like I don't know.
They call it best modern. Now, when I think of modern wahs, I still think Morley, because that's kind of like the next generation.
Bad Horsey?
Yeah, the Bad Horsey. And you know, obviously it's got some pedigree of some great players, like Santana's a Bad Horsey guy. You want to know about a Santana like Bad Horsey thing? Like think of the intro to Smooth. That has a Bad Horsey on it. That's like doubled and harmonized.
What's funny is on this list, that's number 7 as best wah for shredders.
For shredders.
Shredders. The Bad Horsey too. So I agree with you about the Morley for sure.
Yeah, I feel like the Morley is the modern wah in my opinion. But the Boss stuff, I'll say this about the Boss. The enclosures on these, indestructible. I think it's a really good enclosure. Yeah.
It's a standard Boss move. $161.99.
Yeah.
Basically $162 on Sweetwater for this one.
Okay. Is it plastic?
No, it's metal. It's metal.
Oh, is it really? Okay, say because those FV ones.
No, it's not like the FV.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a die cast.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's a totally fine sounding and looking and feeling thing. I just for modern picks, I feel like it's Morley all day. Who are we kidding? Let's go to the next one. Was that?
Does it have a toe click in the Boss? Is there like a switch inside?
Yeah, I'm sure that it does, or it might be like a optical sensor. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You know, but it's one of those. And then the next one, best wah overall, they're still saying is the Mini Q. Let's see.
Number 4 is the GCB 95 Dunlop.
Okay, yeah. So this is the one that I think most of us have got. Number 4 is the GCB 95.
This was my wah.
This is what everybody uses. And these are also like really popular for sending in for mods, especially when I first got into making pedals in kind of the early 2000s. This is what everybody was sending to Robert Keeley to add in, you know, all sorts of different trickery and stuff like that, you know, and you know, adding, you know, switches and all sorts of cool stuff to them. But this is kind of
this is a budget wah.
Yeah,
I think that this one to me
bucks,
seems like this would be the one, because how much are these going for? The GCB
$100.
Yeah, why isn't this the budget one? I think that this is it right here.
Alex, if you're listening, we would love to know.
Yeah, if you have an insight as to why the Vox is chosen as the budget one, even though it's $50 more, we'll never know. But you know, I think these are fine. I think these are fine. I think if you put this on a board, you're gonna have a wah.
I've put these on.
Your EQ will change.
Yeah.
You will sweep your EQ.
Yeah. I mean, I put these on many boards, and they're sturdy. I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't think they're the ones that like have like mounting. Like, so you obviously have to use dual lock or Velcro or something. But yeah, no. I mean, I've put these on dozens of boards, and they're great. I mean, this one.
We should talk about that, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You should tell us.
Tell us about your mounting technique.
A wah, a rat, anything with giant screws on the bottom. What are your secrets, Brian?
So is this Crybaby one? Does it have giant screws?
It has feet.
It has rubber feet.
Okay.
Yep.
Rubber feet.
So there's 2 different routes you can go with this. You can either on the bottom. Some of these are threaded enough to where you can remove the feet and it'll tighten all the way down. Some of them, sometimes they don't.
Most are not.
That.
I would have to say.
Yeah, most of them are not.
Most are not.
So typically, what I do is I will either get shorter thread screws so they tighten, or if I don't have any extra screws, sometimes I will take like a washer, a couple washers on the inside, build it up on the inside more, so the bottom side is still flat, and then do dual lock.
But are you worried about the air gap that's in there then, if you're building it up with washers? From like dirt and stuff getting into the rack and pinion?
Yeah. I haven't had to do it in a while because I switched to doing the screws, ordering the exact size screws I need because they're just shorter. It's because you're trying to compensate for that foot difference. So sometimes it's just one washer. So, I mean, I said on the inside. No, I usually put the washer on the outside, so there's still a little bit of like of a nub. There's one Mission does this like plexiglass bottom they've done in the past, which is works well for those ones, but for like these ones it doesn't. But yeah, I typically do either the shorter screw or I add a washer to compensate for that foot, and then I just do dual lock.
Now, Brian, do you have any wire strippers handy that are near you?
I do.
Can you just grab one for me?
Those
Now, do you
ones?
have any of the kind that are like, that have like the teeth that are on? Yeah. So I don't know if it does on that one, but you see like there's some holes that are like on the lower part there beneath where the teeth are. See those holes?
Yeah.
On a lot of these, you can put a screw into there and you can cut it shorter. And that's the other thing you can do if you don't have
That's very good to know.
the ability to do it. So you just take your screw, you screw it in, you can clip it, shorten it down, and then that way you don't have to use the washer. You can just go all the way, tighten it all the way.
I did not know that on those, so that's good to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's that would
it should
be
have
really
it
cool
should have
to
a
know.
threading option that's listed on it there too on those wire strippers.
Yeah, I mean,
Clever.
I only use these for very rare occasions. I usually use the blue mechanical ones, but this really
Catapults.
Yeah, those suckers are. I got you.
That's you have forever changed my life when I got those catapult wire strippers, man. Those
He cuts his kid's hair with it.
They are so good. Everything, man. I cook dinner with those things.
Well, it's like those hairstylist videos where you hear them where they're like flicking the scissors while they're cutting. It's just like that's how I feel, because when we were all together at Mason's and like we were starting, and I'm like, do you have any of the mechanical ones? Because I didn't think about bringing tools, so I had to learn how to use those. And you're like, oh, I use a razor blade. I'm
you
like,
had to go back in the Stone Age.
Are you psycho? Are you razor blades? Like, I use razor blades for Tolexing, but yeah, no, those mechanical ones are a lifesaver and hand saver.
So you go, cut the screws.
There you go. You can cut them down. That is, if you don't have the screws ready to go, you could just cut them down to whatever size you need, and then you can be self-contained. Let's see what they got for their next one. Best wah for options. The number 5 is the Electro-Harmonix Cockfight.
Now this doesn't look like a wah. I'm going to state the obvious here. As you'll see on screen, if you're watching the video, this is a guitar pedal.
And the description says this wah delivers a smorgasbord of options, and I want to just congratulate the author here of figuring out how to pair smorgasbord with wahs in the context of guitar pedals. So this, I think, what this is essentially is an envelope filter that has an expression jack that you can connect something to. And Full Tone makes a similar one, I think, called a waffle. And you can essentially do the same thing, or get kind of that, like cocked wah sound. Like if you think of like the opening riff for like Money for Nothing, it's kind of like that sound where like it's kind of filtered. I can't say that I've ever played this pedal. On the name alone, I felt like it was sort of a disqualifier for me, but there may be some people that are into the
animal cruelty,
that or the innuendo, thereof. So, and if you are, God bless, no judgment. But I feel like they kind of painted themselves into the corner. I don't think you're going to see too many of these on worship rigs. However, I will say, when have you heard wah on any sort of worship?
Been a while. Early 2000s, I think, has really been the last.
Maybe
time.
like Lincoln Brewster might be a guy who had the balls to use a wah. On a praise and worship service or on an album. Probably I think maybe I'm trying to think of a song in particular that I can think of, but
I think Stu G is another one that uses a wah.
He would have.
Yeah.
Sure, he would have. Yep.
Because I think it's kind of the guys that are coming more from like the rock, coming to they definitely had wah there. Okay, so the Cockfight. Next one, the Moore, the Water
Walker?
Mini.
This is even minier than the Mini from earlier. The Mini.
I have no experience with this. I don't know what to say.
I want to see I gotta look on Amazon at the side. This sucker is like polytune.
Well, and I think what they've tried to do here.
Oh my lord.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt here before we get into it. What they've tried to do is they have a very mini footprint, if you're listening, very small footprint. And then what you can do is flip out 2 little U-shaped brackets that extend the toe and the heel. So it's a longer platform. So then when you pack it up, you can flip them back in and it takes up less space, I guess. Well, maybe you could flip it out so it goes beyond the edge of your pedal board. And then when you're ready to pack up, you obviously can't have that. So you have to put them back in. So as far as the design, I mean, it's a clever idea. I think it's only really practical. Let's say the platform was big enough when these U-ring things were flipped out, or these brackets were flipped out. It's only really practical on the heel, because on the toe you're going to have another pedal right in front of the wah, because it's a mini wah, so you're trying to save space. So presumably your board is packed. So the toe one I don't think is going to be very practical. The heel one, I mean, kudos to them on an innovative idea. I probably would still just want it on the side of my board though, at the end of the day. But I have no insight onto how this one sounds. Nor do I really, I'm not that bothered by it, not being a super huge wah guy. I'm hoping this episode changes my mind, but I would probably just go with a trusted name for a wah pedal if I was to ever put one on my board, if I'm being totally transparent.
Brian, tell us how much you love this one. Don't hold back.
He's nodding his head.
He's gathering.
He's looking skeptical. He's finding the words.
That's all.
Is that a thesaurus you have in front of you? He's opening up the dictionary.
I've said all I could say. I've said all I could say.
Yeah. And we appreciate, Brian, that you have enough self-respect. I was watching Predator the other night, and this looks like something that's like off that suit. Yeah,
it looks like a bear trap. Let's be honest. Like it looks like a mini bear trap, and there's nothing against it. If it's great, let's make ugly gear great again.
Nothing against bear traps.
Yeah. And there's no offense to people that have been saved by bears. Whatever. We're not going to talk about that. But what I'm saying is, looking at this, it's very small. So unless you're sitting it on the corner or you're honestly very desperate.
And you have no self-respect.
Yeah, I mean, but also pedal. The price on it for Amazon.
How much is it on Amazon?
You can't even buy it on Amazon right now.
You can't even buy it. It's so inexpensive, you can't even buy it on Amazon.
It's
so popular it's sold out.
Or maybe it's just priceless.
We just don't know.
Well, it says it is $79. So for $21 extra dollars, you could get a different wah, and it'll be bigger. Yeah. So it's a very interesting concept, but just not for me.
I will say though, playing devil's advocate yet again, I have played a few Moore pedals over the years, and I have actually enjoyed quite a few of them. Like they absolutely have the ability to put out some great sounding pedals. They are on the lower end of the budget spectrum. This one looks like it is ruggedly built. I don't know if it actually is, but it looks like it is. And Moore can put out some great pedals as far as tone is concerned. I would not be surprised if this sounded good, but I just don't know because I've never played it.
Would you be willing to introduce this pedal to your friends?
Ooh,
I probably would not personally. If that's the criteria that we're going with here.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't be bringing this pedal up at a dinner party.
You wouldn't take this home to meet your parents. You wouldn't take this
not yet.
pedal. No.
Not yet. No.
Definitely not. Maybe the next one.
All right, let's see what the next one is. Best wah for shredders, the Bad Horsey 2. Man, I don't love, like, it's not my favorite wah, but I still love this wah.
Tonally? Are you talking tonally?
I think tonally it's fine. Like, it's got a thing. Like, there's nothing that does this like this. You get it?
I kind of get it.
Yeah, I think that they're cool. Like, obviously, if you're talking about Steve Vai mixed with a W for a Y. Steve Vai. I mean, this is the Steve Vai model anyway. And Santana, those guys, I think were both huge and still are huge Bad Horsey people. But even like studio guys, like I get these magazines periodically. I know that sounds a little unusual. I get these old guitar player magazines like from the 80s. I'll just like buy like a lot of them on eBay, and I like keep our bathrooms like full of like older magazines. And it's funny to see like what was popular in whatever 82 to 85, and there's tons of like celebrity guitar player endorsements of like all things Morley, like volume pedals, wahs, like even guys like Lee Ritenour who are like more smooth jazz kind of players were using Morley products. Like they were pretty ubiquitous in the 80s, whether you were a shred guy or not. And so it kind of gives you a little bit of a, or at least for me, it gives me a reset of like, maybe somehow some of these brands became more typecast to a certain type of player now, but when they first came out, they were kind of like an everyman, like anybody could use them. It just crossed a lot of genres. I love the sound of the Bad Horsey. I think that they're very cool. It's not the wah sound that I go for, but like I like the sound of it. I think it sounds cool, and other people use it in a way that I think is very pleasing and musical. So I have no objection to this at all. I don't know if you guys have had any experience with Bad Horsey. This one's optical. Sometimes some of the versions that I've played can kind of screw up the tone a little bit because some of them have like a sensor and the bypass can be a little funny. But I don't know if that's across the board, but I've noticed that in the past. But
my biggest issue with it is just strictly its size.
Yeah.
It like trying to fit this thing on a setup. If it needs to be on a board, it's almost twice the size as a standard wah.
Well, they have
like
smaller versions too now, though, don't they? Isn't there like a mini Bad Horsey, something like that?
Yeah. A Colt?
Yeah.
Or mini Bad Horses.
The pony. The Bad Pony.
Little Sebastian.
Any experience with the Morley's?
Ubiquitous wah, though.
I have very little experience with this one. I've definitely done some Morley wah, or I think it was a wah or something, and I did some stuff with Doyle from the Misfits.
Isn't he a Bad Horsey guy?
I think he is. I think he has a signature one. Like it's all painted. I think it is. I think it's Morley. I can't remember. It looks very the enclosure and everything looks very similar. It's been a couple of years since I've done stuff on his board. But from what I can remember, I think it is. And I say that was the most like the durability is really good. You know, the tension. It's very basic. I mean, it's very lightweight. It was easy to mount. It's just another one of those things that if it fits your style, and that's the type of thing. I mean, like I said, I have only so much I can speak into when it comes to the wah side of things. But I mean, I want to say the Morley is like, you know, the coolest kid in the school type of thing. Like it's definitely not on every single board, but I think for certain people, if you have the space, because it's very large, it's a wide pedal. It's like almost double the width of a normal wah. So it just kind of depends on if you have, you know, the real estate really. Nowadays people want, you know, every inch of space on their board to put more stuff, where this is like you're taking up 4 pedals, standard pedals worth of space sometimes. So
awesome. Let's see what else do we got. I'm so glad they put this on here. So the Ibanez WH10 V3 wah. This is like Jean Frusciante all day, who's got a great wah tone. I know that this doesn't look like a traditional wah, but these sound really cool. Another guy who I don't have one of his wahs, but Wilson makes a really cool, like much more reliable version of this in like a more of a standard wah enclosure. I don't know exactly what he calls it, but they're fantastic. If you want this sound and you want like a little more reliable than the Ibanez one, because it's a little flimsy feeling, even though they sound amazing. I don't know how the newest reissue, they've done a few reissues of these over time, but just throwing that out there, if you are a Frusciante fan and you like that kind of wah sound, these are really, really cool. I don't know how much they go for now with the V3, but man, are they cool. They're cool sounding. Like I actually don't have one. I should have one.
Are they plastic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, you know, you just got to keep that in mind. But man, it is a classic sounding wah. 160, not bad. I like these.
On Sweetwater.
I really like these.
Yep.
This one is switchable between true bypass or buffered bypass.
Nice.
I would say, just keep it in true bypass. No reason to add that color. Because remember, once it's on, all that buffer's in there.
It's on.
Yeah, is that all the choices there? Is that the final one?
That's it.
All right, that's it. So given that, now I know that you guys mentioned that you're not wah owners. I don't know if you have any.
I'm a wah owner. I'm not a wah user.
Okay,
I'm not an owner.
You don't own it.
I have the Vox wah, the first one up on our list. As you can tell, I never look at it or use it, but it's on my shelf, so it makes me look a little bit more credible. I have the 847.
Okay. Well, I would say, and Brian, you don't own a wah?
Nope.
Don't even believe that they exist. Well, there's one, just kind of speaking of commercial wahs, that I was sort of surprised they didn't mention, which is from Exotic. I think Exotic's wah is a very nice wah. I think it's reasonably about the smallest that you could get in a wah format. That is like reasonable for a foot size that, we would all, I think we could all agree that like most of us will be able to make that work. It's smaller than a regular size, but it is more compact than, what you're used to seeing. It's not as small as those little mini pedals, and they sound great. They have lots of controls on the side. It's got a good pedigree of players that use it, including John Mayer among them. But I want to get into some of these other wahs that I have here that I like people to know about and recommend. But before we do, I want to break for our very first ad read of the day. I'm going to pass it over to Grant to tell us about them.
All right. So let me tell you guys about two of our sponsors here. First one is the Guitar Sanctuary over in McKinney, Texas. There's a lot of guitar players in Texas, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that. Quite a few. And this is their one of their favorite guitar stores here, the Guitar Sanctuary. They carry everything from what we've been chatting about today, wah pedals, a whole range of guitar effects, accessories, boards, guitars, amps. It's a guitar-centric store, so you need to check it out either online if you're nowhere near Texas and McKinney, or if you're anywhere in the area, make sure you stop in and tell them the chairman sent you. TheGuitarSanctuary.com is where you want to go to check them out. I also want to tell you guys about Neural DSP and their recent release, which is the Nano Cortex, a mini all-in-one amp profiling effects machine. It's probably, would you guys say, roughly a quarter the size of the Quad Cortex. It's a lot smaller than the Quad Cortex.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have all the features of the full-size Quad Cortex, but it has a lot of the essentials if you are into amp profiling and sims and all that. My favorite thing about it, I have to say, I'll keep chatting about this thing if I don't stop myself, is you don't need any external hardware to profile your amp or pedal. It's all included in the one unit, which I absolutely love. And so you guys need to check out the Nano Cortex. Also, if you guys are into Neural's plugins, which are incredible, you can use the code Chairmen, CHAIRMEN, to get 30% off any plugin that is older than 90 days.
Okay.
So use the code Chairman on any plugin older than 90 days and you will get 30% off. And I mean, with that 30% savings, you could probably go and buy a wah pedal. I don't know. I don't think you could go to the Guitar Sanctuary, buy a wah, and that's two birds with one stone, as they say. So check out neuraldsp.com. Chairman is the code for the plugins, 90 days or older, and you will be very happy that you checked them out. Mason, I'm going to throw it back to you.
All right, so let's talk about some other wahs. So we mentioned that the Exotic wasn't on there. I was a little surprised about that. I think that's a pretty excellent wah. I think, reliable, compact compared to a normal wah, and I think, I don't know what the price point is. Maybe one of you guys could look it up, but I think it's in the $220. So I think that's a pretty fair price for what it is that you're getting. And again, you have lots of different options to control. They have little mini trim pots that are on the side. I think you can control some of the EQs. I think you can control the Q. That's really good. Another one that I think is really great in a new format is the Robert Bradshaw Custom Audio Electronics wah, which is really cool in that you have a switchable inductor. So you can choose between two different inductors, which is kind of cool just to have some interesting sounds. And then I think you also have a boost that's on sort of like a push switch that's on the bottom of the wah. So I think the intent there is that if you're using the wah either off the board or on the far right-hand side of the board, assuming that you're a right-handed player or a right-footed player, that you can kick that on, kind of on the side of the wah and get a gain boost to kind of saturate things a little bit more and get some tones out of the wah that way. So I think that's a really excellent wah. I think another one that is still made that nobody really talks about that I have here is the full tone Clyde wah. Now, I would say one of the challenges with any new wah is reliability. There's just inherent issues with the design of wahs, the rack and pinion. There's just issues with pots. There's issues with things getting dirty, getting scratchy, the mechanics of it just falling apart. And I will tell you one wah pedal that's not happening with is the full tone Clyde. Now, I have the deluxe version. There's a standard version. And I think the main distinction is that you have an input level, so you can kind of saturate it more if you want. And then you have a couple of different voicings. So you have the wax, which I think is more of a color sound. You have the Jimmy, which is kind of like the classic Vox wah. And then you have a shaft. Maybe the shaft is a color. I don't remember what the distinction was of these three. But you have a couple of different options there. And then on some of the newer ones, you have an option to turn a buffer on or off. And I think that this is, and then you have a level for that buffer. And I think that this is the thing that people have tried to address in more recent years. Whereas if you're using a wah first and then going into a fuzz and you turn on the fuzz, it affects the sweep of the wah. And so by putting the buffer there, you get the sweep back. Now, I don't really believe in this. And I'll tell you why, because I feel like, first of all, most vintage wahs are going to be sensitive to impedance anyway. And so as soon as you start messing with that, you're taking away from the character of the wah. So you're kind of getting an inferior wah sound, and then you're buffering another high impedance pedal that doesn't like low impedance by putting the buffer into it so that you can get the sweep back of your wah. I've talked to a lot of guys about this that are kind of really entrenched in kind of that Hendrix SRV style sound. And most of them, like Philip Sayas, again, Grant's countryman in Canada, just says, just deal with it. You're going to have this abbreviated sweep and make it work for you. Or people will reverse the order. They'll put the wah after the fuzz, and then they don't have to contend with that issue as it relates to the sweep. I don't believe in the fuzz-friendly buffered output wah, which is basically not turning the wah into a buffer. It's just lowering the impedance so that you're able to make it work in conjunction with the fuzz phase when the pedal is on, because normally the output of a wah is pretty high, and so it's just changing the output impedance to match up better with the fuzz face so that you can maintain the sweep, but compromises the sound of the fuzz face and the wah in the process of doing it. So I feel like it's not really a benefit to do it that way. But I do think that this is a really great, like if you want a new wah pedal that sounds great, this is the one. I think it's built like a tank. And it's just so, everything about it is just done to such a high standard. I know it doesn't look like a traditional wah. That bothers some people, but if that's something you don't care about, this is a great sounding and very reliable wah. If you're going used, I think that I mentioned earlier the blubber wah. This is a very traditional type of wah. I think that these go for under $200, and it's a very short sweep. And what I mean by that is that the distance that the actual physical foot pedal travels from fully off in the heel position to fully, like open in the toe position is much shorter than an ordinary wah pedal. And that's how most of the vintage wahs would have been anyway. They don't have these long travels. And so it does that. It's a very lightweight casting, even though it is a standard size and ostensibly looks like a normal wah pedal from what you can see. These were manufactured by Maxon. And the coolest thing I think about it, and these are made in Japan, I should say, is that it doesn't call it a crybaby because I'm sure at that time they wanted to avoid any lawsuits, so they call it a crying baby machine, and it says that right underneath it. If you want,
Interesting.
and I've talked about this before. If you don't want to call a wah, you want to be a little different than the person sitting next to you. Why don't you go ahead and tell your friends? Ask them a question like, what are you guys using on your rigs for your crying baby machine? And kind of see how it sits with other people to see how it goes. And report back in the comments if you don't mind. So wah and or crying baby machine. Another crying baby machine that we talked about a little bit, the Buddha Boudoir. These were made, I think, in the late 90s to maybe early to mid 2000s. There's another boudoir that looks very bizarre. I think Buddha's had an interesting arc. I think they're owned by PV now, or were owned by PV. I think that they did some bizarre things to the amps and the pedals, but their amps were also very nice. I think Dave Friedman was involved in some of the design of certain amps from Buddha, but the wah pedals, absolutely fantastic. Again, manufactured by Dunlop. I even think it says that on the bottoms here somewhere, on the bottom plate, but maybe I've got that covered with some dual lock. But these, absolutely fantastic. Lots of session players, lots of pros were using this at the time. This was kind of like one of the best wahs that was out there. It's very simple. It doesn't have any switches. It's just input, output, 9-volt, very simple. Purple bass. The other company that I wanted to talk about, now this will look like a vintage crybaby to most of you looking at it, but you'll see in the bottom, it's got this Venus Witch logo. And this was a vintage crybaby that was restored by Venus Witch. And if you want like a really super boutique, like to the nth degree replicated perfect wah-wah pedal, check out what Venus Witch is doing. I think that the guy that runs it is a mechanic in England. And he like machines a lot of his own parts. He's like making everything super custom. And he will restore vintage wahs, which is what he did for me on this one, because it was I think it was missing the bottom plate. And he even like kind of you maybe can't really see it fully, but he even like kind of relicked the bottom plate here, because somebody had given me this wah. I didn't even have a bottom plate on it. It was just like the enclosure and the PCB, and it was just like hanging out. He like matched this, and he even engraved the serial number in it so that it would match what a old school like wah would be, you know. And so he restored this one for me, but he makes his own wahs as well. Absolutely fantastic. Everybody that I know that is into like the Hendrix thing and that want to just go there 100%, everybody is getting his stuff. Really, really great craftsmanship. Easy guy to work with. Very professional. Venus Witch. I'll make sure that we link them in the description, because I think that again, if you're into Hendrix, you're into Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're into those type of wah tones. Oh, and he even sourced these vintage wah feets with the flathead screw there. No detail is left unturned, you know. So it's kind of like historic makeovers, or something like that, you know, where you would have them kind of, you know, take your Les Paul and make it to the vintage standards, or my buddy Joe Riggio. They're like that, but of wahs. And so really, really great stuff. I can't say enough good things about them. I think that those are all great. Are there any other wahs that you guys are coming across that you think that people should know about, that should be talking about, that you're like, you've heard from other people when you were working at the Guitar Sanctuary that folks were all about? I'm trying to think, other than the exotic, what's missing from that list that should be on that list?
Missing from the list? Besides the exotic, I can't think of any. I mean, but the Buddha, but I don't think that's something that the Sanctuary sells.
The Buddha, I don't think has been made for 10 or 15 years.
Mission? Does Mission have anything? No.
I don't know if Mission makes wahs. They make Expression for sure. But I don't know if
I think so. Expression and Volume, yeah. I have a question for you guys, and this might not be the right time to bring it up, but the whole time I've been wondering, an idea that I have for wah. If you're not into wah, but you want to get the sound, couldn't you, in theory, get something like a source audio EQ2 and an expression pedal, even if it's controlled expression over MIDI, whatever, but you're externally controlling the EQ2 with an expression pedal.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't you create your own cue in the source audio EQ2 and then just sweep it across? Because essentially that's what the wah is, right? It's a huge bump in your EQ and you're sweeping it across the audio spectrum. Is there no reason why you couldn't take an EQ pedal that is sweepable and just create your own wah that way? Like, is that
Could,
I know,
but it wouldn't sound traditional, I don't think, because there's other elements too with like the wahs with the inductor and how those saturates, and you got these high impedance transistors, and there's elements that you can't fully recreate, but you could probably get the semblance of a wah, but I don't think it would be exactly like. Well, I don't need my crybaby
I'm just trying to
anymore.
think, like, I probably still would never put a wah on my board, but there's times where I want to get the cocked wah sound.
Yeah.
Like just the EQ.
That'd be easier
filter,
to do, I think, with the
envelope.
EQ.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, I think that's probably where I would
more because it's static.
With it.
You could create a pretty static sound with it and kind of get that out of it, I think, undoubtedly. But it won't be the same. I can think of another one actually that I didn't that just came to mind that I don't hear actually about much anymore, which is RMC, which is the Real McCoy wah.
Oh yeah,
those are really
custom.
big when I was coming up in the pedal world. They had like the Wheels of Fire and like all these RMC 10 or there's all these different ones that they had. And I actually owned one when I was in college. I remember it was like an expensive buy because it had all these pots on the side and all that stuff. And those are really cool. Those sounded great. And they were very, vintage voiced wahs. I don't know if they're still making wahs anymore. I feel like they were in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, like Oregon or Washington. But those are really cool wahs. I don't really hear about them anymore, but I remember them being cool. I remember them sounding good.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar.
They show up every once in a while.
Yeah, I've never came across one, but I definitely have heard it before.
Yeah, those were really cool. Traditional wah enclosures and kind of doing his take on vintage wahs. Trying to remember if there's anybody else that I feel like there's something that we're forgetting. I feel like there's somebody out there.
I can't think of anyone that we're forgetting. I know that we had kind of talked about it before the podcast about like that where it says essential in the article for the wah, and it's always been a pet peeve of mine to see articles like this. While it's a good article, while it has really good recommendations, seeing something like essential, I think confuses people sometimes in thinking that they have to have it, that it's essential to their pedal board. So I'm curious for you guys, do you guys think that a wah is an essential thing? Like, people are like, oh, the essentials are, it's like when, you're going on a trip. Oh, the essentials are, food and clothes and water, that kind of stuff. Like that's your essentials when you're going hiking and you're trying to, unless they're going to be bears, maybe then you buy the more one. But if you're not, maybe not. But the same thing can apply to like pedal boards. Like, what's your essential? Like, is a wah an essential? Obviously, a power supply is essential. Obviously, I mean, I guess some people could say a pedal board is an essential. You can plug it on the ground, but we're not animals. We're not going to say that. So, do you guys think wahs are essential? I mean, I've been playing for 20 years. I think, yeah.
I think if you are like what Mason was saying, if you're Jimi Hendrix cover band, it absolutely is essential.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think if you're playing for church or you're playing for, some other band that's never had to use it or that's your vibe or whatever, then absolutely not. And I would fall into the latter category.
Indie singer-songwriter acoustic.
Yeah, exactly. Put a wah on your acoustic and go to town. But yeah, I think for some guys it absolutely is essential.
Yeah.
Any cover band.
By no means. Yeah. If you're in a like even if you're in like what Mason, if you were doing a wedding cover band and you have to do all sorts of genres, then wah is going to come up, out of a couple of decades, out of the last 50. So yeah, I think for some guys, 100%.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how people, 90% of the boards I get, there's always a wah on the list. And it's always surprising to see a lot of these boards that, they either pull the wall off because they're not using it, or they put a pedal in the spot. Or I'm like, oh, what do you use for the wah? And they may be like a church player. And they're like, oh, you know. And I'm like, please enlighten me, because I've been playing at churches for past 20 years, and I've never even needed a wah, unless elevation worship decides to be spicy and start writing songs with wahs. I don't think it's gonna be a thing. You honestly never know with them. But yeah, no, it's
maybe that's your missing link, Brian.
It must be.
Maybe it's just that thing you've been missing. Well, is wah. I dare you, next time you're on, man, bring a wah and see if you can slot it in somewhere without any funny looks. That's the challenge.
I would just set my expression on my neural DSP quad cortex to wah, and I would just use it for that setting. But no, it'd be something that's cool to dive into. It's just one of those. There's so many options out there too. So it's like, what is the right one and what is the not right one. So yeah, no, I
have been searching while you guys have been chatting as well for other wahs that we've forgotten, and by no means does that mean there's nothing, but I can't find anything of note. There's definitely some pretty unique ones out there, but nothing that's like, oh yeah, we completely forgot this popular wah. I can't find anything.
Wasn't there like a wah in like a Converse shoe one time or another?
Oh, really?
I think they put a sensor in a shoe, and then like depending on how you stepped on the shoe, there was like a fiber strip inside the bottom of the sole, so you could.
I like that.
They tried. I get links from my old boss all the time, and it's stuff like that. And I'm like, no. I was like, no thanks. I don't need that.
Well, there's one weird one I can think of that's really bizarre that I remember when they came out. I was like, who's going to buy this? And there was a surprising celebrity that ended up using it. But I'm going to talk about that in a second. But before I do, I want to turn it over to Brian to talk about a few more sponsors that make the podcast possible every week.
Absolutely. So our last two favorite sponsors are going to be the guys over at Bestronics or BTPA. Brad, I literally just got, kid you not, a shipment of these. They're for the backing on D series jacks like XLRs and stuff. I needed them for some rack builds that I'm doing. Brad had it, was able to order it. 2.1 millimeter connectors, all sorts of cabling, looms, any of this kind of stuff that you need, multi cables, they have it. And it's amazing. They are super quick. They're over in Chicago, and they'll get it out to you. So go use the code DutchHairs for 10% off at btpa.com. You will not be disappointed. Brad, simply the best, as I say, is just gonna help you get you what you need. If you don't know what the part number is, then go ahead and give him a description, and 90% of the time he's going to go, oh yeah, it's this. And then he'll get you covered. So go check him out, BTPA. Next are going to be the guys over at Mono Creators. I also have yet a lot of different cases, backpack cases, as I've used for my quad cortex in the past, guitar cases, gig bags, double cases. They have all sorts of power supplies, pedal boards, units, they have their rail system, their newer unit system, as well as their carbon fiber flat boards. So go check them out, Mono Creators. Use the code Chairmen for 10% off. CHAIRMEN. Again, you won't be disappointed. They make really high quality stuff, from their zippers to the materials, the foam inside, just to protect your investment. You're going to want to use something that's reliable and durable. So go check them out, monocreators.com. I'll throw it back to you, Mason.
Well, on the ad break there, Grant and I looked up a couple, and Grant was able to find a few things there. Grant, what did you come across?
Well, this is something I still want to buy. I totally forgot about it. I don't even know if they're being manufactured anymore, but the ZVEX wah probe and the similar fuzz probe, where it senses how close or far your foot is away from the unit. Okay. So there's no moving parts as far as a standard treadle style pedal, but they're pretty unique and probably more on the quirky side, I would have to say. I've never actually had one in my hands, but I know for a fact that they're less dependent, and so you'll get some interesting sounds going on as far as sensing where your foot is. But I love ZVEX, and I love what they put out, and I've always wanted the wah probe and the fuzz probe.
Yeah.
There's cool. Another one that I came across. that this jogged my memory about. So Jam Pedals makes the Wacko wah, which is also kind of like a selectable wah pedal. And actually, when we did an interview with Dan Huff, he had one of these that he was using for wah, and I remember it sounding really great. Also, Dave Friedman makes a wah called the No More Tears wah, as opposed to the Crybaby.
Playing off the Crybaby.
Yeah, and I have not played this, but Dave has been, plenty of his modified Crybaby wahs have come across, my desk and other boards, and they were all, kind of like just optimized, for a nice wah voicing. Seeing if there's any other ones here that I recognize. R. Weaver, who is known for his vibe pedals. He also makes wah pedals. I haven't played any of his wahs, but if they're anything like his vibe pedals, I'm sure that they're excellent, because he's also a real vintage tone snob, and I'm sure would spare no expense or leave no stone unturned in order to get the best possible sound. I mentioned I think his name is Kevin Wilson, but Wilson Wahs, those are also really great boutique wah pedals that, he does a range of things from kind of the classic vintage Crybabies, vintage Voxes, up to like the Ibanez WH10. Just seeing if there's any other things that kind of stood out to me that I've heard of. I kind of think that that's it in terms of wah pedals. But if we're missing some, tell us in the description if there are things that we should be talking about wah wise that we did not talk about, that are excellent wahs, that are things that people should be grabbing, whether it's new, whether it's secondhand. I kind of went through a bunch of different options that you could buy secondhand on Reverb or Gear Exchange or wherever it is that you buy your secondhand products. But any final thoughts before we complete today, Brian or Grant?
No, I don't think I've come over to the wah side. I think it's of absolutely a relevant effect, and I think it it has its place in guitar history, just not on my pedal board.
Not on my pedal board.
Not on my pedal.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think it's something that in the future I would be putting on. I think it really comes down to how essential it is for the gig or what you're doing. Like you guys were saying, if you're in a cover band, then great, very essential. But yeah, that's how I would say, if there might be a day I might be in wah.
The challenge stands, Brian.
Getting one. I might find that wah and I'll be so shocked. I'll be in wah of it, and I'll have to get
Love
it. So, but no, I would say at the moment, no, there are a lot of great choices. A lot of the picks from the article are really good references, kind of shuffle around the best and whatever. But I think there are some really good stuff out there, and also stuff that wasn't picked. But yeah, I would say no wah for me in my future, but you never know. I might get older.
Well, thank you all for being here today, for enduring our sort of analysis of the 2024 best wahs. As we're reaching sort of the tail end of the year, I'll be interested to see what additional articles may release, and then into 2025 what kind of new things are coming out in terms of the best of list. But thank you for being here. As always, if you enjoyed the content and you want to support what it is that we're doing, the easiest and free way to support it is to go over to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast and write us a review. Or even if you're watching us right now on YouTube and you want to support what we're doing, other than subscribing, the other best way is to go to iTunes and write us an honest review. We're not asking for a 5-star review unless we've earned it. We appreciate an honest review that gives us feedback so that we know the direction that you might want to take the podcast, or if there are things that aren't really working, or if there are things that are working great and you really enjoy it. It helps other people like you find this content so that they can enjoy it as well. Until next time, from me, from Grant, from Brian, we will see you on the next episode and get a little further down the road to Tone Town. See you later.
Hey, guys.
Yep.